the greatest financial experiment in human history. We're living through the biggest financial experiment humanity has ever seen, and most people don't even realize it. Global debt, government, corporate, household, personal, has exploded to levels no civilization has ever carried before. Trillions borrowed as if it's nothing. Money printed with a keystroke. 30-year mortgages taken like they're grocery bills. And somehow, we still treat debt as if it's normal. Harmless. Permanent. But it isn't. Debt has always been a tool of power, a weapon of control, and a ticking time bomb waiting for the right spark. The real question isn't if this mountain of global debt will trigger a crisis. It's when, and who will pay the price when the system resets. To understand how we got here, you have to go back, way back, to where debt began. Debt is as old as civilization itself. The first clay tablets in Mesopotamia weren't poems or philosophy, they were ledgers. Records of who owed what and to whom. In those ancient times, debt wasn't just economics, it was sacred. Priests and kings oversaw loans, enforced payments, and sometimes erased them entirely in massive jubilees. Because even back then, people understood, a society crushed by debt cannot survive. Debt was power, but too much debt was a threat. Ancient rulers knew what modern leaders pretend to forget: you can't enslave everyone with obligations forever. Eventually, the system breaks. Fast forward to the Renaissance, to the Medici bankers of Florence. Debt had evolved from cattle and grain to gold and credit. Kings borrowed to fund wars, popes borrowed to build cathedrals. But debt always carried danger. Even Spain, drowning in silver from the New World, went bankrupt 4 times in the 1500s. That's lesson number 1. Even empires overflowing with gold can drown in debt when ambition outpaces reality. Debt had gone global. It shaped wars, toppled dynasties, and redrew borders. The modern explosion of debt began in the 20th century. After World War I, nations were buried under unpayable bills. Germany was crushed by reparations so heavy that economists warned they'd break the country. They did. Hyperinflation followed, people carrying wheelbarrows of cash just to buy bread. Debt wasn't just a number anymore. It became chaos, and chaos led to war. Then came 1944, the Bretton Woods Conference. This is when the modern financial world was born. The U.S., sitting on 2/3 of the world's gold, set the rules. The dollar became the anchor, tied to gold at $35 an ounce. Every other currency tied itself to the dollar. The idea was stability. The reality? Dependence. But temptation always wins. By the 1960s, America was spending heavily. The Vietnam War, domestic programs, endless promises. They printed more dollars than they had gold. Other countries noticed, started asking for gold back, and in 1971, Nixon shut the door. The dollar was no longer backed by anything. Debt was free. Infinite. Untethered. That was the quiet revolution. From that moment on, governments could print and borrow without limits, as long as people kept believing in the system. Then came the pattern we still live in today. Every slowdown? Lower interest rates. Every crisis? More debt. In the 1980s, the US and UK ran massive deficits. Developing nations borrowed heavily, and many collapsed when they couldn't pay it back. Debt became the cure for every problem, until the cure itself became the disease. 2008 proved it. That crisis wasn't just about housing. It was about debt stacked on top of debt, a pyramid so fragile that when one piece fell, everything shook. Banks failed. Millions lost homes. Governments bailed out the very institutions that caused it. The lesson was clear. The system protects the powerful. Ordinary people pay the price. Since then, debt has exploded beyond comprehension. Global debt tripled in just 20 years, passing $300 trillion by 2023. That's nearly 4 times the world's total economy. Governments, corporations, households, everyone's borrowing. The U.S. owes over $34 trillion. Japan's debt is twice its entire GDP. China hides massive debt in local governments. The entire global system now balances on trust, the belief that debt can expand forever without breaking. But it always breaks. Debt changes behavior, distorts reality, and steals from the future. Every dollar borrowed today is a claim on tomorrow's work. And when it becomes too big to repay, history offers only three outcomes. You pay it back, you inflate it away, or you default. No empire has ever escaped that truth. Right now, the illusion still holds, barely. Governments borrow quietly. You swipe your credit card, thinking you're paying, but you're really borrowing. Corporations inflate profits with debt-fueled stock buybacks. The system thrives on leverage. It feels light on the way up and crushing on the way down. Debt looks invisible until interest rates rise. Then the mask comes off. Budgets tighten. Mortgages jump. Companies struggle to refinance. Debt is like a sleeping predator, harmless when calm, deadly when awake. And still, people are told that borrowing is the path to success. Students take massive loans for uncertain futures. Families stretch for homes they can barely afford. Governments pretend deficits don't matter. It's the same lie repeated for centuries, that debt is free, safe, and endless. History always proves otherwise. So what happens next? There are only a few exits, none of them painless. The first is inflation, the silent tax. It erodes what you owe, but it also erases your savings. The second is restructuring, admitting the system can't pay and rewriting the rules. The third is default, the crash no one wants to face. Most likely, inflation. Because it's quiet, sneaky, and politically easy. Governments need it. You pay for it, not through taxes, but through the slow theft of your purchasing power. Debt isn't just about money. It's about power, who lends, who borrows, and who gets rescued when it all falls apart. Banks survive. Politicians retire. Corporations restructure. Ordinary people lose their homes, their jobs, their future. That's why understanding debt isn't just financial education, it's survival. Because if you don't see the trap, you're already in it. So what can you do? First, see the illusion for what it is. Second, learn the pattern. Every empire, every system that drowns in debt eventually resets. And third, protect yourself. Build real wealth. Knowledge, perspective, assets that hold value beyond paper promises. Because the system will reset, it always does. Debt builds. Leaders deny. Crises erupt. Societies reset. The only question is whether you'll face that cycle blind or awake. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History doesn't just repeat, it rhymes. And if you know where to look, it tells you exactly what's coming next.